All right. Okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome. Whoops. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Meet Fit and Lean. If you're new, please hit that like and subscribe button. Folks, I want to talk about failure in your weight loss goals and your dieting, and why it's important to get right back on that horse. And I was told, growing up when I was, of course, I've been around horses my early part of my life, and one of the biggest things is that if you fall off, you got to get right back on, get back on that horse. And that's one of the things that, like, with your approach to life. And so after, of course, 4th of July, I really messed up on my diet quite a bit because I had like way too much iced tea, sweet tea, and sugar. What that does is doesn't necessarily cause fat gain. It causes the water retention and causes kind of things to go out of whack again, so that you're not really losing. But I reversed that. And I've been working on counting my macros and my carbs and all that. But I want to say to each and every one of you, don't give into this all or nothing mentality when it comes to weight loss, when it comes to dieting. You have to get right back on that horse, and that's one of the biggest things you have to do. I know it's very challenging. There will be setbacks, and there will be times when you might even gain a little weight back or just not lose weight. And if you're doing everything right, it can be frustrating. If you're not doing everything right, it's actually better because you know what you're doing wrong. But I have been tracking my macros and my caloric intake, and I've really been focusing on eating high protein, lower carb foods. But it does take a while when you have a setback sometimes to get your physicality in check and everything to go back to what you're doing earlier, so that it's almost like your hormones and everything can go out of whack for a while if you fall off in a big way. But I am not. I'm determined throughout this whole thing, and everyone says that I haven't been very consistent. Or no, I've been pretty consistent. I would say losing over 30 pounds in a little over a year is pretty good. I've retained the 30-pound weight loss, give it a few pounds here and there, but I basically have been maintaining around under 270 pounds. A lot of people argue, well, you're so heavy, you should be dropping more weight. And to that I say, maybe I'm not as heavy as you think I am. If I were 400 pounds or 500 pounds, yes. But if my ideal weight is around 200 pounds, then at 270, it's not going to come off as easily as if I were 400, 500, 600 pounds. It's going to take longer, especially if I am lower on the body fat, which is happening. I would say I'm currently just under 35%. I'm not sure exactly. I do know that when I was 261 pounds, I measured at 33% body fat in a clinic. But since then, I've put on muscle that was over 10 years ago. I've developed my physique in a better way. So it's hard to pinpoint all of these things, but even I would say when I get down to 220 pounds, no one would look at me and say, that's an obese person. And I'm only about 50 pounds away from that. So you can imagine why you have to keep that in perspective, keep that in mind. I'm not going to be 160 pounds. I'm not, one of those small little men. I'm 5'11", possibly 5'11 and a half. I actually had my height undermeasured at the doctor's office, as low as 5'9 and a half. When they realized they were measuring me too low, they said, well, you're at least 5'10 and a half. And without shoes, that means that my weight could be a lot higher, but if you're talking about in proportion, when I was 220 pounds, I was about 22% body fat, even when I was not lifting weights. This was years ago when I was not doing any strength training at all. My natural build is more muscular than most. And I'm not saying that I'm an unusual exception. I am currently obese. I own that. But the thing is, folks, is that I'm closer to my goal than you may think or you may realize, in terms of the way that things are fitting, the way that the way I feel even at this weight, I feel so much better than I did when I was pushing 300 pounds. I don't feel like I'm in the danger zone anymore. I feel like health-wise, yes, I have a long way to go, but as far as my weight, I'm not at that extreme danger level. I'm more, I would say moderately obese is how I would categorize myself, despite what the BMI says. I will get into another video about BMI and why it's not reliable for most people, not just weightlifters, but most people. And I will explain that in terms of you can have a healthy BMI and be too fat. So I'm not arguing on the other side, which says, I'm way obese and I don't like what the BMI says. No, I'm saying you can have a low BMI and have too much body fat, and you'll be under the false belief that you're healthy when your BMI says you're healthy when you're actually too fat. So BMI can be wrong in both directions for people, because all it is your weight times your height. That's all it is. It's not it's just an antiquated equation that goes back to the 1700s that all of a sudden is the gospel that people are using to determine their health is really dangerous. The new formula is your waist measurement times your height is actually a better way to assess how fat you are. But if you want to know how fat you are, folks, there's this thing called the mirror. It's pretty. If you've got lumpy rolls hanging all over you, chances are you're obese, okay? It's just that simple. You don't need a BMI calculator to tell you. So I want to make it very clear, folks. I'm not saying that I'm anywhere near lean or ideal, but I believe that I'm closer to not being obese. Like, in other words, at 220 pounds, I would not be obese. I would be overweight, but I would not be morbidly or even mildly obese. I'd probably be at the high end of normal at 220 pounds. So that's why you can see at 270, only about a 50-pound difference, that what a difference that would make. And I'm basing it on just my stamina, how I'm sleeping, my blood pressure. My resting pulse, folks, right now is about 60 beats per minute, which is pretty good. So I have a low resting pulse. My blood pressure is clocking in about 130/85. That is a little high, although I am over 40. But once I lose more weight, I think that will improve. So I'm determined, folks, to get back on that horse and ride off into the sunset. I'm not quitting. I know a lot of people have said that you're not losing weight, you're not meeting your goals, but I beg to differ. And I've looked at how much I've accomplished. Now I am not where I thought I would be. I've had this channel almost a year. I thought I would lose at least 50 pounds in a year, but it's been more like 30 pounds. But I'm still encouraged. And that's what you have to do, folks. And you can't give up. You can't listen to the haters. I consider the haters obsessed fans. That's why I call them obsessed fans. All the haters that, give me rude comments like, oh, well, you're fat, so why should you be giving diet advice? Do you not hear yourself? Why should a thin person be giving advice? They don't know what it's like to be overweight. Would you take advice from someone who's never been overweight? Because they've never struggled with weight, so they don't know what it takes to lose weight. So why would you listen to them? You should listen to people who've been overweight, who know the challenges, who know how hard it is, who understand the mechanisms that keep you fat. You should listen to those people, not the people who've never had weight problems, because some people never had a weight problem. They have terrible diets. So I feel like being fat is a blessing because it shows you are nutritionally deficient, and you need to fix the problem, and you need to get down to the root of the problem. So I just want to encourage each and every one of you on your weight loss journey not to give up hope, folks, to keep on and with your weight loss journey, and get back on that horse. And I think that by Christmas, certainly, my goal is to be down to 250 or less. Yes, I know it's painfully slow, and I know a lot of people are saying, why bother? Because it makes a difference. Even just losing 10 pounds makes a difference. And I will tell you if you want to be really depressed, folks, I can give you the statistics on people. Okay, for example, Weight Watchers Anonymous, our Weight Watchers, has an average weight loss of 12 pounds a year. 12 pounds a year. That's the average weight the average amount of weight people lose on Weight Watchers. I've lost over 35 pounds. So I'm just trying to give you the bleak reality here that weight loss is hard. It is a struggle. It's a chronic disorder, and we should treat it. We should treat obesity, not stigmatize it, but treat it like a medical condition that people need help. People need to lose weight, and it's chronic. I mean, it's lifelong. And even if you never develop obesity, you can still be sick from your horrible diet, nutritional deficiencies, all of these things which contribute to unhealthy eating. So I'm just being realistic with y'all, and I'm going to tell you very bleakly that obesity and overcoming obesity does not have a very good track record. In fact, it is very unusual for people to sustain weight loss beyond a couple years or even a year. The most likely scenario is they regain all the weight back and more, and especially those who lose it quickly. And I'm not losing it quickly, as you can see. I'm losing it like a turtle, but I'm doing it the way I can do it. So the way that I can sustain it, because I can't sustain weight loss in a way that would restrict my calories to 1,300 or 1,500 a day, and it just is not realistic. You have to be reasonable with yourself. And what I do know, folks, is that, yes, that I will have setbacks if I do allow myself to have too much of certain foods, namely sweet tea or donuts or anything like that, causes severe bloating and water retention in me. And of course, fat gain as well, but that usually happens, that precedes the fat gain. If I continue down that road, it gets worse. So the good news is, folks, my body gives me a warning. If I'm eating the wrong foods, I get very bloated and I retain a lot of water. I feel miserable. If I continue to do that, then the fat comes back. So that's the turning tide, right? So I owe it to my health and my Lord to get healthy and strong. So thank you all for watching. Go to my website at meetskeletonsplace.com. And remember, folks, say a prayer for someone special today. Bye-bye.